Hi, I'm Saurabh from Rudolf Consulting Services. We were earlier Rudolf Professional Services, but we just changed our name to Rudolf Consulting Services. Now, one of the things that I've been hearing for the last 1 year or so is that how can organizations leverage AI effectively for better productivity, which will result in better revenues? So that is something that a lot of leaders across the world, even in India, are grappling with, right? And I think it would be fair to assume that anytime a new technology has landed, people have been confused about the usage of the technology. To give an example, um, when wheel was invented, nobody really knew what to do with that wheel, right? I mean, and again, there were folks who figured out that there is a use case where a wheel could be used in a cart, or it could be used in a carriage, or it could be, and subsequently it was used as wheels or tires for automobiles and so on and so forth, right? So every decade or so you would find a disruptive technology landing at your doorstep. The only problem is most folks really don't know what to do with it, right? And now AI is not something that just appeared in 2022. AI research has been going on for decades, right? And chat gpt, or more appropriately generative AI products, are not AI in totality. AI has been in place since 2000s, right? When companies started using artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to basically learn more about consumer behavior, right? Amazon has been using it since the early 2000s, right? So likewise, AI has been used for recommendations, for insights, for understanding things better, for making accurate predictions. There have been multiple usages of AI, right? The current trend, which has come in predominantly due to Chat GPT, again started by OpenAI, has caught up because this is the first commercial product that spread like wildfire because it could do a lot of things. It could do a basic human need of generating content, right? Now, the problem over here is that useful or is that not? Is what I'm going to be discussing, right? I was reading a blog by Benedict Evans, somebody who's pretty well known in the Valley, and he spoke about the fact that when the guy called Dan Bricklin created VisiCalc, right? It was a Excel-like software, you know. He took it to a lot of accountants who loved it because, by then, if you look at, go back some 50, 60 years or maybe more than that, accountants were basically creating rows and columns for accounting purposes. So when they saw something like a spreadsheet, it immediately made sense to them and made their jobs far more easier. What would take like a week would now be over in an afternoon, right? So it made sense to them. But when VisiCalc was shown to lawyers or artists, it did not make any sense to them because lawyers wanted to generate documents. They wanted to write memos. They wanted to write a lot of other things for litigation. And VisiCalc as a spreadsheet did not cater to their needs, right? And so was the case with artists, right? Artists wanted something like a postscript where they could use it to create something, an artifact, a painting, something like that. So, in spite of being a revolutionary product, it did not make much sense to anybody who did not have much use case for that, right? So AI is exactly like that, right? And the reason why people paid $2,875 back then, and which is close to $12,000 in today's currency value, is because Macintosh 2 or Apple 2 basically came loaded with all these existing applications. And all of these applications kind of cater to a different segment of folks who use that application for their own problems resolution, right? Now, the question over here is that ever since generative AI came to existence, a lot of these different products have popped up. You have, Chat GPT by OpenAI, you have Claude by Anthropic, and you have Gemini by Google, and there are like a boatload of products. Much recently, DeepSeek R1 has been creating waves because of the fact that it could basically run on very little hardware and optimized the cost function exponentially. But we'll not get into that. The idea is that most enterprises in today's world are finding it difficult to see how to leverage AI effectively. Now, I think from an organization's perspective, what is it that you exactly do, right? I mean, think of it from the point of view of a chief executive officer of a company, right? He has to convince the board that we need to adopt AI. So what is the pitch that he's going to make actually, right? What will AI do? And there's a lot of confusion around this word, artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence. I mean, what is it? What does it entail? What does it mean exactly? So to quote Satya Nadella, right? At one point in time, Microsoft decided to become an AI company, right? And it decided to become an AI and a storage company. And but before it went ahead and created AI products, it wanted to create an AI infrastructure for its own domestic consumption, right? So similarly, every organization which is on the way to become AI centric, if I may use that term, needs to first figure out that if you sort of layer up, right, and add this artificial intelligence layer to your organization, what would it exactly do, right? First of all, if you talk about what generative AI is doing right now, it is trying to generate code and automate or augment a lot of functions that people used to do manually, right? So in any job that requires content generation, the broad classification would be content generation. Any kind of content could be images, um, could be videos, could be text. Even coding per se is nothing but generation of text, right? That would be something that generative AI can effectively take care of. Now, in the case of an organization, right? First of all, you need to create, in order to become an AI-centric company, you need to have an AI strategy that your organization will broadly follow. It's like the corporate strategy of an organization moving towards uncharted territories like AI. So you have to create an AI strategy that will basically take care of how you will convert to an AI organization, right? Now, every organization runs a volley of products or services, right? I usually use the word product to make my point, but you know what I mean. So, first of all, after converting and becoming an AI company, right, you have to figure out that this AI layer, if I were to add AI to my, portfolio of products or services, what does it really mean exactly? And that is where the confusion is. The semblance of confusion comes from the fact that organizations, and more appropriately, folks in the organizations, have not yet figured out what do we do with this AI thing? And I'll tell you why. Because this AI wave came all of a sudden, right? And it was something that uh, people did not anticipate, right? People did not know that it's going to come in full swing and sweep everything across, And it's basically, I would say, it shook the industry. And today, most most CXOs are apprehensive of using AI. First, because they don't understand it fully. Second, because they really don't find any use case, and that's a fundamental problem. So most organizations really don't know how to use AI. What is AI going to do? We are hearing news of, the AI is going to cost optimize by, making a lot of jobs dated, and a lot of folks will basically be given pink slips and all that. But what does it really mean exactly? I mean, in an organizational term, that clarity is absent. And that is where I'm going to talk a little bit on what organizations can do. So let's say an organization has a product, right? From an organization's perspective, right? Organization has to basically see the end customer of the organization, the person who's paying the money to avail the service, right? Or the product. I'm going to use both of them interchangeably, but you get the gist. The idea is to basically see how that organization will make life easier for its end customers, right? If the end customer will get far better user experience, right? If the end customer will get far better features, and if it can generate an outcome for the end customer and some value through that outcome, that is where AI would be used, right? That is the genuine use case for you to optimize the user experience of your customer. You need to list down, let's say, in that case, in this case, you can always employ something like a jobs to do framework to basically figure out that these are the jobs that my customers want to do, and these are the things that we need to do to ensure these jobs are done far more effectively, right? So that is one way through which every product manager or every engineering manager or these hordes of folks who are found inside the tech utopia could use AI or the power of AI to make lives easier for their customers or end customers, right? So that is one way of looking at things. The second way of looking at things is that if I create a AI infrastructure or I become an AI centric company, what does it really help me become? So technically, and this is something that a lot of folks in the valley have observed, is that artificial intelligence or adding AI tools to uh, to kits of developers or product managers make them more and more productive, right? And this is where I'm going to take a minute or two to talk about it. So what happens is that a lot of if you split your day into 10 different kind of jobs, right? A lot of these jobs are, something that, that could easily be replicated by an AI, right? So that involves almost 50 to 60% of your job, right? I mean, you could basically make an AI do the job and you can proofread it, right? And I think the chances of the content generated or the thing generated being accurate is really large. With the more and more sophisticated versions of the Gen AI tools that are coming, you would find that most of what they're generating based on reasoning and their understanding of the data and understanding of the context of the data is kind of correct in a way, but you still have to proofread it. And that is kind of called fine tuning. And I think there's a lot of hoopla around fine tuning the product or the output of the generative AI. So essentially, if 60% of your time that was spent in doing these menial jobs, right, of creating content some way or the other, writing code, creating content, creating the letter and everything else, is taken care by generative AI in retrospect, then it would leave you a lot of time to do a lot of creative and innovative things, right? So that means the OKRs need to be redefined. For every person in the organization, the OKRs need to be redefined. And in that context, you would find that that would eventually lead to far better productivity. So let's define productivity for the sake of understanding. Productivity is when you are able to complete a certain job in a certain stipulated time. If you're able to do more and more and more jobs in that same time, you are more productive. If you're not able to do more and more job in that, or you do less jobs in that specific time, you are not that productive, right? Not that productive could be attributed to many reasons. You are not that cognitively gifted. You take time to understand, and that's not a problem. I mean, and a lot of folks take time to understand. It's not a fault at all. But it has to be backed by hard work, right? You have to spend a lot of time to basically understand and implement and deploy it, right? The other part would be that you lack focus, in a stipulated time, you take too many breaks, you are basically wasting time here and there. So the time to produce something becomes very less, right? So you're not able to generate that much outcome, or you're not able to become that much productive as one expects you to, right? The third could be, I mean, it's kind of rare, but it's always seen that there are almost bureaucratic or infrastructure constraints that inhibit a person's performance to some extent, right? I mean, but these are not something that one can find frequently inside organizations, right? And then there are meetings and different kind of things. But if at all you can decimate, you can decimate all of these things to some extent and provide AI to folks in your organization, it would augment their productivity, right? When it augments their productivity, it means that they can now focus on far more jobs, do far more, right? So the velocity of execution increases exponentially, right? That is what AI will eventually lead to. The velocity of execution per employee or per capita execution increases tremendously, thereby leading to an exponential increase in per capita productivity, which in turn will bring in more and more revenue for the organization. So if I were to say how valuable an employee is, if I go by what somebody said in the past recently, that ARR divided by number of employees is the per capita contribution of an employee, you would find that as AI is seamlessly integrated in the corporate utopia, the productivity will basically shoot through the roof, and you would find more and more productivity leads to more and more per capita revenue generated by each and every employee. So that is where we are leading. So that is where, but for that to happen, you have to ensure that folks in your organization, employees in your organization, understand what generative AI tools or AI tools to use for their respective jobs to make their lives easier, right? And save them a lot of time, which could otherwise be focused on far more important critical issues, right? A big problem that I have seen in my professional career is that typically in an 8 to 10 hour work schedule, 4 or 5 hours go in useless meetings. I mean, I love when Elon Musk says that, you should only hold a meeting if it makes sense, right? And it's actually true. A lot of folks end up spending a lot of time doing meetings. Now, imagine if somehow, I'm not talking about when, but if somehow there is an agent that can take care of meetings, right, for folks, right? And they're not made to sit in those meetings. That many hours could be far more productive for the organization, right? So that is essentially how an organization will eventually leverage AI. So AI is a fascinating technology. It is, if you talk about generative AI, it is one of the fastest growing consumer technologies in the world, right? But it's just come in, you know, and it's not, it's something that we really don't know that well. A lot of research is happening to figure out the explainability of generative AI systems, the models, how are they generating the output, because most of it is reinforcement learning, right? And through human feedback. So a lot of the weights that we see, we really don't know what prompted them to generate those weights, right? And how are they basically using it to, take a decision to do this. So that is relatively unknown because the AI trained itself, right? I mean, the AI is training itself based on the inputs, based on human feedback on those output generated. It is somewhat training itself. So that part has to be deciphered. And there's the bunch of people who are trying to figure out how AI really works, right? Maybe we'll have a book or a lecture by somebody very soon talking about the explainability aspect of artificial intelligence. But as organizations, you have to be extremely, extremely conscious of the fact that AI is going to come and change the way business works. It's almost like how digital transformation came and changed the business for a lot of companies. I mean, Kodak being a classic example. When digital cameras appeared first, they did not anticipate what digital cameras could do, and they became extinct. So this is something that has hit us, and a lot of organizations running 0 to 1 products, which is kind of rare, or maybe 1 to N products, would need to integrate AI seamlessly into their ecosystem. And if we were to do that, you need to have folks who understand AI, right? You need to have folks who understand how this AI or this technology could be used to make lives easier for their employees as well as for their other stakeholders as well as for their customers, more importantly. And through that, you will understand how AI can actually become a boon for your organization. So the reason I wanted to focus on the specific aspect is because I have been hearing about it for a while now, right? And I just thought, if there is so much confusion around AI, let me create a video to dispel the confusion. And also because I have some selfish motive, right? We at Rudolf Consulting Services are in the business of creating AI strategy for companies and AI product strategy, distribution strategy, and any other strategy for companies so that they can create far better products for their consumers and their customers so that their customers in turn can have far more superlative experience, right? Because see, the goal of every organization is customer delight, right? Now, artificial intelligence is just a layer that you're putting on your organization, right? I mean, it's just a layer that is putting, but what are the implications of it? The implications of it would be that this layer will eventually lead to far more superlative experience for your customers, right? And it will generate outcomes for them. It will bring more and more value to your customers' delight curve. And all of that will lead to customer delight or customer happiness internally inside the organization, better productivity, far more velocity in terms of execution, and complete revamp of the way business used to happen, So artificial intelligence is not a threat. It is going to augment biological intelligence like human beings. And I think, as they say, I don't know if how many of you have seen this movie called Total Recall 2, which starred Kate Beckinsale, my favorite, and Colin Farrell, where they were talking about a dystopian future where somebody like Colin Farrell was basically responsible for creating robot suits for robot soldiers, right? In that specific movie, there are robot soldiers who are supposed to basically take care of administration and maintain law and order issues and everything else, right? So as AI is seamlessly integrated into a societal utopia, right? You will eventually see that there are new jobs popping out, right? Which would require new expertise. So for an organization, investing on AI, will lead to far more fruitful outcomes because your employees will become productive. You will get more and more time to invest in research. You will be able to optimize cost. You will be able to keep your customers happy. Life will become very, very easy for you. But you just need to be able to understand what you're doing, right? And sometimes when you don't get it, you need help. And this is where people like us come in to help you out. So we at Rudolph Consulting Services will help you create your AI strategy. We at Rudolph Professional Services, Rudolph Consulting Services will help you create your AI product strategy, AI distribution strategy, AI operational strategy, if any. And we will ensure that it leads to more and more productivity for your organization and far more superlative user experience for your customers. If you if you think it's worth a talk, you can write to me at founder@e42z.in. Talk to you soon.